So, it's finally happening. The video that every other LGBTQ+ YouTuber has made, I'm finally making a coming out story video. And like, here's the thing, Elle Mills already made the best coming out themed video of all time, therefore the pressure's off. And now like, I know how this is meant to start. I meant to say something like, I first knew I was different when I was 7 years old, I was 13 years old, when I was 25 years old. But here's the thing, I don't know when I first started to maybe realise I was different. I don't even know when I knew I was different. So welcome to this mess of a coming out story. Now I want to try and make this video clear and coherent and step by step. But here's the thing, coming out is not linear, right? And I don't even really remember. But do you know what does remember? Do you know what always remembers? Your Facebook profile. So I'm about to go deep dive into the last 10 years of my Facebook to try and prompt my memory. So you better start calling me Velma Dinkley, cause I'm gay as fuck, and I'm about to solve a mystery. Chapter the first, the PSHE lesson. So PSHE, for those who don't know, is physical health and sex education. It's like the generic class in which you learn about the world. And we had a guest speaker in when I was in year 8, so I was like 11 or 12 years old. This guest speaker does this exercise where it's like, I'm gonna say a statement, and if you think yes, you go to this side of the room, and if you think no, you go to this side of the room. And she was doing some statements, and we was like, it was cool, this statement's split, oh, this statement's split, oh, 50-50. And then she comes up with this one. Okay guys, so yes or no, I would still be friends with someone if they told me they were gay. And I was the only one who went to the yes side of the classroom. Now at the time, I did not think I was gay. I know that much because I said it a lot. Because I was very righteously angry about the fact that like people thought that you were gay if you stood up for gay people. But this was something that I was like ruthlessly teased for. And I was like simultaneously like meant to feel really awful for these things they were calling me, but also getting really annoyed at them because I was like, there is nothing wrong with being gay. This whole thing started because I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay. And you're like bullying me by calling me this thing that I don't think is wrong. But at the same time, like the intention is there. The intention to hurt me is there. So it kind of doesn't matter that I don't find this offensive or I don't find this like an insulting thing to be called because I know that you're trying to say something mean to me. And like I remember one particular instance, I went into the classroom at lunch and like all of the popular girls were sitting in their table in the corner eating their lunch, and like it went dead silent when I went in, and I was just like, oh, subtle, like you were clearly talking about me, and I clearly know what you were talking about to do with me, and like they said something about me being gay, and I was like, listen, okay, I'm not gay, but if I was, oh, you'd be the first to know about it. Spoiler alert, they weren't the first to know about it. Chapter the second, debate me. So, Rowan was continuing her righteous stream of justice. We had a debate class, right? When I think it was like that same year later on in the year or the year afterwards, in which we had to debate. We got to pick our own debate topic, and I picked that LGBT people should be allowed to like adopt children, basically. That was my topic. And it all seemed to go well. I was like, hype, let's debate. So I'm like packing up my stuff and everyone else is left, and this teacher comes over to me and she's like, Rowan, I know I allowed you to pick your own topic, but I hope you know that good Christian people would not have voted in your favour in an actual debate about that topic. What the hell? And like looking back at it, there's so many things that happened to me at school that I'm like, if this happened now, like I could see there being like a headline somewhere being like, how messed up is this? But at the time it was just me on my little lonesome like, oh, this didn't feel very nice, but I don't really know what to do about it. Chapter the third, the school dance. This was a particularly trying time for me. There was a boy who I was friends with. I thought we were just friends. We'd been to like the cinema a couple of times, and the last trip we went to the cinema, I'd like asked him if he wanted to come to our school like disco dance thing. I did not think that it was a date. I did not think anything we had been doing were dates, but on the last cinema trip, which was like the night before this dance, he went in for a kiss. I did a real like dodge maneuver, got me right on the cheek. And then I awkwardly said goodbye, and then I was like, okay, cool, interesting. This is gonna make tomorrow night a real awkward, and it did. It wasn't even, here's the thing, it wasn't even a gay panic. It was like my being gay was so separate from my not wanting to be with guys, if that makes sense. Like, that was like its own issue to deal with. This was a thing that I hadn't even started to think about yet. Chapter the 4th, baby's first Pride. At the time, as you can see, I had a very questionable side fringe. So the first time I went to Pride was year 11, so I would have been like 15, 16 then, I think. And I went to Pride with some friends, and we were all straight. Like, we went to Pride and it was just like, we're just showing our support, we're being a straight, having fun. And like, here's the bit that I don't remember, because chapter the 5th, the cast party, I know that I came out to a girl called Jess on the arm of that sofa that night, but like, I genuinely don't know what got me from the point of I'm at this Pride in which I'm very much straight to I'm on the arm of the sofa and I'm coming out to someone. I clearly had something between those 2 dates. And I genuinely don't remember what happened. So like, part 6, the activist awakens. Now you might have been like, Rowan, the entire time you've been fucking gay rights, way hey. But basically, when I was in year 12, our computers at school started to block sites for specifically lesbian and gay content. So if you tried to go onto like helpline, support sites, the Stonewall website, it would just say blocked for lesbian and gay content. I was livid. Me and a couple of friends were like, let's get this sorted. So we're like booking in appointments to see the head teacher. We're like doing petitions. We're like, this is unacceptable. We're coming in to tell them how important it is. Our head teacher leaves between year 12 and year 13, so my like second to last and my last year at school, and basically like she doesn't care. She like passes it on to the next head teacher. I since went to a reunion, saw that first head teacher, and she was like greeting everyone else, knew everyone else, and then it got to me and she was like, oh, and I'm like, it's Rowan. And she's like, oh, why do you remember you? Oh, I think you must have just been very opinionated. And I was like, well, that's a code for lesbian if ever I heard it. So I like ended up doing exactly the same thing with this second head teacher who said my all-time favorite quote of all time, which was, Rowan, you know I can't be homophobic because I used to live in Brighton. So that was like clearly not gonna happen. And like this is another weird time zhuzhy thing where I'm like, I feel like you think that you like come out to yourself and you come out to other people and like that's the full process. But I genuinely feel like I maybe like went in and out of certainty, in and out of the closet, told someone who, like I told someone at the cast party just to like feel what it felt like to tell someone, to maybe voice this out loud, and then like, was I really out to myself? And I remember thinking like, a year after I come out to someone at the cast party, like, why are my parents trying to make me come out to them? Because like, maybe I don't know yet, maybe I'm just confused. So I think that like this period of mass confusion happened where I was like at the same time being very vocal about gay rights and then like also trying to work out who the hell I was. And like also I found this picture on Facebook of me at a Queer Youth Network meetup. And Queer Youth Network was this like website that I used to go on and like, because I'm old, we didn't have like our own private computers, so we had to use the family computer and it was in the hallway, and I'd always like make sure to, you know, turn off the history and stuff. But the Queer Youth Network, like I must have been going to those meetups and using that forum before I knew that I was out. Like I feel like I must have been just like floating around there, and I can't even remember like whether I was floating there first of all as like trying to be a supporter for like queer people, or whether I went because I thought I would be queer. Like those things are so muddled in my mind, and I really wish that I remembered these things, but I'm like, maybe that is that kind of like coping mechanism of like when your identity is shifting so drastically and when you're so uncertain of that part of yourself that like you don't remember all of the like absolute agonies of trying to work it out. But what eventually accumulated is that in year 12 or year 13, I came out to my friends in the classroom that you always hang around with at lunch, and they were so chill that they didn't even say anything about it. Like the conversation just continued, and I was like, damn, they're so chill. And there had been another girl in the group who had come out as bi like years before, so I was like, oh well, I know they're chill, so this is all fine. Turned out, in whatever chapter we're up to, chapter the 8th, the MSN messenger coming out, that the reason why they hadn't reacted is because none of them had heard me, because I came out to someone on MSN Messenger who was a friend who had like gone to another school, and she was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, I thought people would have told you, like I thought we would have gone through our grapevine of group communication. And she was like, yeah, I'm on MSN Messenger with the other friend. She also says she doesn't know, so like, what the hell, Rowan? And yeah, it turned out no one had actually heard me. And I'd done this whole trying to casually slip it into conversation and been like, too casual, too smooth, which is, too smooth is not a phrase that's ever been used to describe me before or since. That whole mess happened, and then like when we get to year 13, for sure year 13, I am out to absolutely everyone. So I'm like 17, 18 at that point. And I know this, and I remember this because I remember so many girls from my year coming up to me and being like, oh, are you gay? I heard you're gay, but you have long hair. But don't you want to wear a dress and get married? And then you also had girls in the year who would be like, gay people shouldn't be allowed to have children. That's disgusting. And like, those were all things that none of the teachers decided that they needed to like comment on or control or like punish or engage with in any way. So I went to Pride again, and this time I am out, I am ready to party. First Pride being out, fun time. I'm marching with the Queer Youth Network. I marched with the Queer Youth Network like 2 or 3 prides in a row after that first one when I went and was like being straight. And I know I'm clearly out on this one because this is my brother. My brother has been in many of these photos, by the way. I was like, this is basically just like Rowan and Elliot growing up. Elliot is a great ally and brother. And like I went from 0 to 30 like real fast because like this picture is me having been photographed as an official project of like teen LGBTQ plus like activists, people who are like in the community. And then like when I was going to universities, I would go and I'd immediately be like, so what LGBT like society and provisions do you have for people like I? And then I like my first term I was at university, I got an LGBT welfare role, and then like I ended up being president of our LGBT society. So like I got gay real fast. But like after that, I still had to settle on various bits of my identity, right? So I had to settle on like queer as a label rather than like lesbian or gay. And I had to start exploring the way that my identity intersects with like the ace spectrum, which was something that was like super recent comparatively. Like that's like 10 years ago that I first came out to someone. You know, like, and that in that time, my identity has like changed and shifted, like not drastically, but just in the way that I've experienced it and in the labels that I want to put on it and the way I feel about it. But also like deciding to come out for me is like a conscious choice because I know how incredible it would have been when I was that like kid in school who felt like she was like so alone and that no one cared, to have had like other people to look up to. We had girls in the year above who there were rumors about, and they were like these girls that we were like, oh my God, they're so cool and they seem so happy. And like, it was like this, what I talk about on my channel in terms of representation, but like in real life. And I feel like I absolutely want to be that for someone. I don't really mind being known as like the lesbian YouTuber or the gay YouTuber or the LGBT this or the whatever, because to me that's not anything limiting. Like that's just a part of who I am and it's an important part, and like that can be really useful for people to see. So yeah, this video is in no way as cool as Elle Mills is, or as emotional as some other people's, or as like revolutionary as others, but like, do you know what? Having coming out videos on YouTube, I think is a fantastic thing for people to see that there are so many diverse different ways of coming out and there's no wrong way or right way to do it. And hopefully this has been useful for you, or just funny at how much of a ridiculous human being I am. If you want to help support me make these videos, I'm as always going to leave a link to my Patreon in the description, along with all my social media links. You can find me all over the internet. And until I see you next time, bye.